Alright guys, welcome back to Underground Science, and in this video we'll be talking about the pathophysiology and some symptoms of COVID-19. Alright, and we might even split this video up in case if it gets too long. But let's go and get started. So pretty much let's start off by seeing what COVID-19 stands for. Alright, so COVID-19 stands for the coronavirus disease. Alright, coronavirus disease found in 2019. Alright, so that's why it's named COVID-19. So it's the coronavirus disease found in 2019. Alright, sweet. So we got that out of the way. Now let's see what COVID-19 is, because COVID-19 is actually the disease. Alright, so what's the virus that causes this disease? Alright, so COVID-19 is actually the disease, and it turns out that a virus called SARS-CoV-2 is actually the virus that causes the COVID-19 disease. Alright, so in the SARS-CoV-2, you can, let's just go and say what this stands for is the severe acute respiratory, because it affects the lungs mostly, but recently they found out that it affects other body parts also. Severe acute respiratory syndrome, and then coronavirus type 2, alright? Severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus type 2. So that's pretty much what SARS-CoV-2 stands for, right? And this is the actual virus that causes the disease of, like, the COVID-19 disease. Alright, so let's go and jump into the actual physiology and science and biology of how COVID-19 and how SARS-CoV-2 affects our lungs. Alright, so for that, let's go to another whole separate page. Alright, and let's go and get started. So this looks pretty good. Alright, so let's start off by saying that this coronavirus or SARS-CoV-2 is mostly spread through respiratory droplets. Alright, so respiratory droplets. Alright, it's mostly spread through respiratory droplets, so things like coughing, things like sneezing, and even just the air that comes out when you breathe. Alright, but that's more unlikely than coughing and sneezing, obviously, right? So breathing, the air of breathing that comes out. Alright, so these are the main ways, and there's been some evidence or shown that it could be spread through the fecal route. Alright, so maybe if there's parts of the virus in the fecal matter of someone, and maybe if they don't take care of their hygiene properly, and someone else gets in contact with those fecal matter and potentially brings it near their mucous membranes, you could get the virus that way also. But we're going to focus mainly on the respiratory droplets, and we're going to see how the SARS-CoV-2 virus affects the respiratory system. Alright, so let's go and get started. So let's say a person takes a breath of this virus, right, and it goes down their trachea. Alright, goes down the trachea, and then we know that we have our carina, and it splits down right into our bronchi, our two bronchi, and then we have our amazing lungs here, right, that don't know what's coming to them. Alright, so, oops, no, let's not draw it like that. So our lungs right here, and again, this isn't drawn to scale, obviously, but I'm just trying to get the concept down, right? So the virus is coming, right? Let's say the virus is right here. It's coming down, and it makes its way down to the lungs. Now, remember that the lungs have these air sacs, all right? So pretty much these air sacs called alveoli. All right, so we're gonna have many branches. So these bronchi right here. So we're gonna label this. These bronchi right here are gonna branch into smaller. Didn't spell that right. So the bronchi are gonna split into smaller structures called bronchioles, right? And these bronchioles are then going to give off and turn into, or not turn into, but then we're going to see structures all the way at the end of the bronchioles that are called alveoli. Alright, so these alveolar sacs is what we're going to see inside the lungs, And these alveolar sacs are literally why we can breathe. Okay, or not why we can breathe, but why we have gas exchange in our lungs, right? How we exhale carbon dioxide, right? Without these alveoli, we wouldn't have proper gas exchange at all. So we have air-like sacs, air sacs here, alveolar sacs, or what they're called, or alveoli, right? That, remember, if you watch my cardiovascular system playlist, we went over the fact that we have a capillary, right, or an arteriole coming down here from the pulmonary artery, right? And then it branches into a capillary, and then this capillary goes down, then branches into a vein or a venule first, right? A venule, and then soon it branches into, a venule, and then to a vein back to the pulmonary veins of the heart, and it all dumps into the left atrium, right? So let's draw our bigger structures that are coming back from here. So we have an arteriole here, right, that branches into a capillary and then a venule. So this is our sort of like a capillary bed here that's responsible for our gas exchange, all right? So our alveoli, what they're going to do is, recall from our video that we made in our when we're talking about the heart, is that we're going to have CO2 that's going to leave from the capillaries and enter the alveoli that we'll breathe out, and then we're going to have oxygen that will come from the alveoli and into the capillaries, and because our capillaries are getting oxygenated now, it's going to turn into venules, right, with indicated as red, and blue is indicated as deoxygenated blood. Once we turn into our venules, we're going to dump all the oxygenated blood back to the left atrium of the heart, where we can pump it back into circulation. So that's the basic idea, right? So, but how does the SARS-CoV-2 affect the lungs? Well, you see these alveolar sacs right here? This is where the SARS-CoV-2 virus comes and starts to produce its effects, all right? So let's zoom in into one big alveoli, all right, like we did in our pulmonary circulation video, all right? So what we drew in there was one big alveolus, all right, because alveolus is the singular form. So one huge guy right here is trying to do its job, but the virus is not going to let him do his job properly, all right? Unless you have a good immune system and we can recover, then we'll be all good. But let's see what it does regularly, all right? Let's see the science of this. Okay, so this is one big alveoli, all right? Alveolus, not an alveoli, because alveoli is plural. So this is one big alveolus. All right, so this is just one alveolus, and since we're zoomed in, what we have to look at is that what cells line the alveolus, all right? So if we look at this, we'll see two types of cells, right? Two types of epithelial cells. So one type is going to be our type 1 alveolar cells, right? So our type 1 pneumocytes are going to be kind of like this, all right? So they're going to be lining the alveolus like this, and then let's just draw a couple more. Let's stretch it a little so we can save time here, and draw a couple more here, and then we're going to see another type in a moment. Those are going to be our type 2 alveolar cells, all right? And our type 2 alveolar cells are going to be like a cuboidal epithelial cells, all right? So they're like a cuboidal shape to them. So what I mean, let's draw the type 2 now, all right? So let's just draw some type 2 right here. And these are our type 2 alveolar cells. You can see they're more in a cuboidal shape, right? And so these are our type 2 pneumocytes. All right, so let's go and draw a couple more in here. Now we're going to have to zoom in even more, in particular on these type 2 pneumocytes. And it's actually not like this, all right? It's not like we have just type 2 pneumocytes aligned. Like, it's supposed to be mixed, all right? But I didn't draw it mixed because I want to just focus on the difference. There's type 1 pneumocytes, type 2 pneumocytes. Now let's write the short function of it first, all right? So we have, the type 1 pneumocytes, let's go and write this down. The type 1 pneumocytes, which are in blue, so I don't know why I'm writing in orange. All right, let's go and stay consistent. Type 1 pneumocytes. Dang it, can't. All right, type 1 pneumocytes are responsible for our gas exchange. All right, so when you hear people talking about the alveoli and gas exchange, is because of these type 1 pneumocytes. All right, because of those, we can perform our gas exchange. So they're responsible for helping us with our gas exchange. All right, and type 2 pneumocytes in orange are really important also. And actually, these are the pneumocytes in the alveoli that the virus affects, all right, affects first at least. And these pneumocytes are responsible for surfactant production, all right? So type 2 pneumocytes secrete and produce surfactant, which actually helps, it's like a serous fluid. So let me go and erase this. I don't know why that happened. Sorry about that. So our surfactant, our cuboidal surfactant is a serous fluid that it's just a little thin layer of fluid that surrounds the alveoli, right? The inner part of the alveoli, and it helps reduce surface tension. All right, so let's write that down. So our cuboidal surfactant produced by our type 2 pneumocytes helps reduce surface tension, which also helps reduce the chance of collapse, all right, of alveolar collapse. So helps reduce surface tension, all right? So as you can see, our surfactant production is really important. All right, now here's what happens. So the virus comes in, our SARS-CoV-2 virus makes it down our alveoli and comes in right here. All right, so let's go and draw this. So we have our SARS-CoV-2 virus like that. And it turns out that the SARS-CoV-2 virus actually has positive sense single-stranded RNA in it. All right, so let me go and write that down. So it has positive sense single-stranded, nope, that didn't fit. Dang it, sorry about that. I'm just going to draw a single-stranded RNA in here, all right? So it's going to have a single-stranded RNA. This RNA is going to be positive sense, all right, positive sense single-stranded RNA. All right, so it's going to be positive sense single-stranded RNA. And what that means is that this RNA is already acting like an mRNA, a messenger RNA, all right? And we'll go over protein transcription, translation, and all that in another video in a playlist. But what positive sense RNA means, it's already acting like an mRNA, which means it can straight get converted to proteins inside a cell via the host ribosome. All right, so if you see the positive sense RNA word, just think of already acting like an mRNA. So it acts like a ready mRNA to go and get synthesized into a protein. So acts like a ready to go, right? Just a ready mRNA. All right, so just think of that when you see a positive sense mRNA or positive sense single-stranded RNA. So it's an already ready mRNA that's trying to get synthesized to a protein or trying to get translated to a protein, all right? So how is it going to enter this type 2 pneumocyte? So let's go ahead and zoom into this type 2 pneumocyte. And another, actually, you know what? Let me just go ahead and duplicate this page. And so let's go ahead and zoom in. So we know this now. So let's go and erase this, all right? Because we just went over it. And so let's go and erase this real quick. And so let's go and zoom in to our type 2 pneumocyte. All right, so let's go ahead and draw this big, all right? I mean, it's going to be kind of big, so let me go ahead, cut this off. Looks like I'll have to split this video. That's fine. All right, so right here, there you go. All right, and let's go ahead and erase these. All right, so we zoomed in to this type 2 pneumocyte right here. All right, and this is our type 2 pneumocyte. Let's go and write this down. Type 2 pneumocyte. All right, so how does the virus enter? Well, it turns out we have this receptor, all right, on the surface of the virus. It's called our angiotensin converting enzyme receptor, but it's a type 2, all right? So it's an angiotensin converting enzyme receptor type 2. All right, so let's go and write this down. So, all right, so let's go. So our SARS-CoV-2 virus is going to come here, right? It's going to come here with its positive sense single-stranded RNA, and it turns out that it's going to use its S spikes. All right, it's going to use its S spikes to attach on to this receptor. All right, and it also has other spikes, but it uses its S spikes particularly to attach. All right, to the angiotensin converting enzyme type 2. So this is our angiotensin converting enzyme type 2. And we'll go over renin, angiotensin-aldosterone system and all that in a future video about the kidney playlist. But for now, let's just know that this receptor is our ACE2 receptor. And our virus, so this is our SARS-CoV-2 virus. SARS-CoV-2 uses this receptor to get endocytosed, all right? So it gets phagocytosed, kind of. You can think about it like that, and it comes through the receptor into the type 2 pneumocyte through endocytosis, all right? So what happens? It gets engulfed and it becomes a vesicle, all right? So it comes in through a vesicle. So now it's encompassed in a vesicle. Inside that vesicle, we have our our SARS-CoV-2 virus with its RNA material, our ribonucleic acid material, and we have our spikes, all right, our S spikes and all that. But so that's not so. But we're not going to focus on that right now. We're going to focus on the fact that what happens next after it gets engulfed in, all right, and we'll continue here in the next video. All right, so see you guys there.